Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Finances with Dr. Nina White. Every Thursday, we bring to you clear, strategic financial insights tailored to professionals and high earners, individuals seeking to elevate their financial strategy. Today, we're going to dive in and talk about one of the simplest, most effective tools for taking control of your money. And that's called the 50-30-20 rule. A budgeting system that helps reduce stress, build savings, and create financial clarity. What is the 50-30-20 rule? So we're going to break down what that means. So make sure you pay close attention. 50% is your needs, right? That includes housing, utilities, groceries, insurance, minimum loan payments. That is your 50%. Next is your 30%. 30% is wants. What you want. Of course, a lot of us, we want things. We have big dreams, and these are what you consider your wants. And that can be dining out, entertainment, traveling, shopping, whatever that may look like for you. And the other part of that is 20%. 20% is savings and debt reduction, emergency funds, retirement, investments, extra debt payments. A lot of times, people do not take consideration and wanted to break this down. When you see it in this capacity, it will make sense to you. So, why is this rule so important? And again, I'm talking about 50-30-20. As I continue to go on, you may say, I can't do 50-30-20, but maybe I can do 70-20-10. It's easy to adjust. So the reason this rule works is it eliminates you being completely overwhelmed. How many of you get overwhelmed with just everyday activities? So let's make sure that we do not overwhelm ourselves when it comes to our finances. It's simple, it's flexible, and it is realistic. Again, you can make the necessary changes that you need to make. The other thing is it gives your money a mission and your future structure. So this is the whole process of the 50-30-20 rule. As I continue to go forward, I'm going to talk about real life examples. A real life example is, for instance, you have a take-home pay of $4,000. Listen, I understand some people may not bring home $4,000. You may bring home 10. You may bring home 20. Whatever that looks like for you. But we're going to break it down so it makes sense to you. Your take-home, this is after all deductions and everything. After Uncle Sam has gotten all his coins. $4,000 is your take-home. 50% of that is going towards your needs. So that would be $2,000 that you're going to put towards your needs. The next thing we have is your 30%. 30% of that, because you've already put $2,000 away from the $4,000. Next is going to be your wants, and that's going to be $1,200. You're going to put that away there. And then comes your savings and your debt. And that is your 20%. And that's going to be $800. See how simple that is? Again, it's very flexible. You're able to maneuver and everything like that. So you don't have to worry about it. So just take that and break it down. One thing we want to make sure that you understand is awareness is greater than perfection. Long as you're making yourself aware of what you are doing. Sometimes people want to perfect everything. Let's not try to perfect it. Let's make ourselves aware. So how do you get started, right? Calculate your take-home pay. Again, like I said, whatever that looks like for you. List all of your expenses. Everything. Don't leave nothing out. Because when you see it in plain black and white, you'll be able to really see what you're spending and even what's coming in to the home. So you want to make, and even businesses, this relates to anybody. So it doesn't matter if you're an individual, if you're you work somewhere, families, or a business owner. It can work for you in any capacity that you're in. So you have list all of your expenses. So for instance, again, as I said in the beginning, your needs is housing, your needs is groceries, insurance, those things, minimum payments, whatever that looks like for you. So you want to make sure that you're listing every expense, everything you're spending money on. Sometimes we're spending money on things that we completely forgot about. You have signed up for some type of subscriptions or something, and then it comes out of your account, and then you say, well, what was this? And then you go back. So a lot of times we're spending unnecessary money, but we forget about it because we signed up for something, or something was a 30-day free and you put your credit card in, and then 30 days done went by and you ain't thought about it anymore. Every single thing. So if you got to pull out your bank statements, if you got to pull out your credit cards statements, pull out everything that you use to spend money with. Okay, so now you got listing your expenses, and then you're going to categorize it. You're going to categorize it to fit 50, 30, 20, right? And again, once you've done that, now you're looking at awareness. You're seeing it in clear black and white. And then you adjust gradually. So again, I'm telling you 50, 30, 20. You can adjust it however you see fit. 70, 20, 10. Go lower. It doesn't matter. Long as you make sure you break down that 100%, because that's what it all totals. So a lot of times what we find is the common mistakes. What happens is we're confusing our wants with needs. You want to go on a vacation, but do you need to go on a vacation? You want to invest in certain stocks, certain investments, but do you necessarily need to do that right now? So these are the things that you want to take in consideration. So the other thing that a lot of people forgetting unoccasional expenses. I just told you, we sign up for subscriptions and completely forget about it. How many of you all travel and they get you to the airport and they say sign up for Clear so that you can hurry up and get through so quickly? And it's quick. It's, right now it's free for the first 3 months, and then that third month you're gonna get charged $199. So now you're charged, and they say, where was this come from? You done forgot you went on one trip, and you're not going on another trip for 6 months. You completely forgot that you signed up with Clear, and you look at your statement and you've been charged $199. That's unnecessary or occasional expenses that we forget about. Then you're setting unrealistic goals. So even though when I start talking about 20% savings, if you're in debt, you got to get clear to that debt first, right? 20% of that, again, we want to have for debt and savings. But if you're in debt, you can't save yet because we got to pay for the debt that we've made. So 20% of that is there. So again, set realistic goals. And what happens is we set unrealistic goals. And the other thing is not reviewing regularly, not sitting down and actually reviewing your statements on a regular basis. This can be anybody, businesses. I find this a lot of times when business owners come to me because they say, listen, I need your help with this, but they're not looking at their books on a consistent basis. So therefore, we have to make sure that we're reviewing on a consistent basis. And individuals as well, sit down, have a family meeting, and talk about your finances. Get your children involved. You want to make sure, if you have young children, teenagers, get them involved when it comes to money, because once they leave your house, they got to go do this thing as a grown person. So let's teach them early. So that's not reviewing regularly. And so then, again, it's financial freedom, is built on consistent habits. Consistency is the key to breakthrough. Long as you stay consistent in doing this simple rule, 50, 30, 20, stay consistent in it, everything will work. And anything that you do for 21 days or more becomes a habit. So consistently doing it, staying focused, stay on top of your numbers, knowing what that looks like. You may take what I've taught you today and you may say, well, how can I apply it to something else? Whatever, just take this rule 50-30-20 and apply it to yourself. So again, let's kind of go back and recap on what I stated. So again, 50% is going to be your needs, 30% is your wants, and 20% is your savings and debt. Maybe you want to flip it and go debt and savings. So you want to get out of debt first. And another thing that I tell people, especially when it comes to savings, if you say you have young children, I'll use myself for an example. I have a 7-year-old son. And, when he grows up and goes away, college or whatever he chooses to do, he has money in a savings account. So right now, I put money in his account every single month. It may not be much. Sometimes I may put $25 in his savings account. Sometimes I might put $100 in his savings account. But by the time he gets old enough, and say for instance, he doesn't get a scholarship to go off to school, he now has money that he can use to pay for school. Or if he gets a full scholarship and he want a car, he can purchase his own vehicle now because he has the money. It's savings. Or just having, we don't want to say emergency fund, rainy day, something can happen. But let's just be realistic. Can you put your hands on a certain amount of money and if emergency happens? Like, can you do that? God forbid you need to get a new roof on your house. And, they tell you need to pay, 20% down or whatever that looks like. But you don't have it. Now you got to go get a loan. Now you got to put yourself more in debt. But you got the money put away for savings. So these are the things that I want you to really, really pay attention to. So, like I stated, calculate your take-home pay. Once you've done that, then go to the breakdown to 50-30-20. Get you a piece of paper and write it down. Write it down. Listen, one thing I know is if you write it down and you make it plain, it'll be real clear for you to understand it. So 50% housing, utilities, insurance, whatever that is your need, necessarily your need. 30% is going to be your wants. What do you want? You want a new car? You want to invest in something? You want to go on a trip? What does that look like for you? What do you want? 30%. 20% savings, debt. Start putting that away. So let's just give you some real life examples, even some testimonies that I've got from clients that I've actually taught this in our financial planning course, because I do this in our financial planning course. And so I've had them come in. Some, I asked them, what are your goals? What is the purpose of you wanting to even participate in the financial planning? And they'll tell me, one, they may be ready to start a family or purchase a house or car or things like that. So usually with the 50-30-20 rule, you want to set a goal. As I had told you before, don't set unrealistic goals. So let's look at the next 3 years, the next 5 years. What does that look like for you? So I've had a client come in that wanted to purchase a house, but they had extreme amount of debt. So again, I ask you to bring everything in so I can see it. I want to see your bank statements. I want to see your credit card statements. I want to see everything you're spending money on. Sometimes we go to the ATM, pull money out, and then you spend it and you don't know what you spent it on. So one thing I always tell people is make sure you're always using your debit or credit cards, because you have a trail. You know where it is. So because majority of the time, if you go pull money out of the ATM, you might go spend $20 over here, $30 over here, $100 over here. So you want to know exactly what you're spending your money on. So the client came in, say, listen, I want to buy a house. All right. Bring me all the debt. Bring me all the documents that they have to spend money in. And we break it down into the categories. Literally what their wants was, what their needs was, and then we're looking at the savings and debt. So first things first is when we look at her income and her income doesn't match what she's spending. She's overspending. And a lot of times we do that. Listen, I know a lot of us want to be the Jeffersons and want to move on up. But slow down. You want to take the time to get everything categorized, everything in order. So her take-home pay was around, if I can remember correctly, about $5,500. And that's a month. So, when you split that up, every 2 weeks or every week, however she was getting paid. But I look at the overall. So her overall is about $5,500 a month. But her expenses was almost $10,000. So where are you getting this money from to spend the extra if you only bring home $5,500? So what do you think she was doing? Using her credit cards. So now you're maxing out credit cards and you're putting yourself deeper and deeper in debt. So we had to get that under control. So we set a budget for herself. And you have to be strategic and you have to be disciplined. When you do this, again, I told you it's simple, it's realistic, and it's flexible. You can make adjustments, but you also got to be strategic and you got to discipline yourself. Sometimes some things that you usually do, you may have to have to stop for a moment. Just for a moment, you may have to stop so that you can focus on getting yourself in alignment with the 50-30-20. So once we went down everything, the majority of her expense was on, what do you think? Food, eating out, entertainment. I said to her, ma'am, do you cook? Like, let's get some groceries in the house and let's cook. But in this day and age, everyone's trying to please everyone in the household. And you can't necessarily do that. When I grew up, my mother cooked. If I didn't want it, I went to bed hungry. It's just what it was. So we have to get back to that. I mean, sometimes we got to bring back some old school techniques. And you can't please everybody. You can't go to Applebee's. This person want Applebee's. This person want McDonald's. This person want Burger King. Listen, you're spending too much money. So let's pipe down. And once she saw that in black and white and seen it, she's like, oh my goodness. It made her like really take a minute and just kind of reevaluate things. So now we're working on that. We look at her. We put all her, everything that she's in debt, who she owes, credit card bills, student loans, whatever. We start with the lowest one and she started paying them off from the smallest to the largest. And then she just started making her way until she completely paid everything. And that was discipline for her. It was hard because she wanted to go shopping and she wanted to go. And I said, no, you can't do it. And sometimes another thing that we do is a part of our planning, you have to open up a separate savings account. So I require you to put money into a separate savings. You may have a savings account, but this is a whole fresh savings account that you got to put this money in. And so even though we've structured and disciplined her to start paying her debt down, she's also now putting a certain amount of money into her savings account. And so as she did that, she started to say, oh my goodness, if I was able to save this, what if I was able to do this, put a little bit more in, or if I cut out this, so it started making sense to her. So now she's cut down her debt. She's, her credit score is rising, things like that. So now she's adjusting. So it's like looking at her needs, and she was confusing needs versus wants. Sometimes she thought like, well, I mean, of course, like this day and age, most people don't have landline phones. We have cell phones. So we need our cell phone because majority of the time we don't need to, we don't get landlines. Nobody does that anymore. Some people still do, but I don't for sure. So she looked at it, and so all the extra devices that she added, she said, well, I don't need this. That was just like a luxury for her. She went and, getting the latest technology. You don't have to get all of that. So she piped down. She cut some of those things out. Some of her, entertainment, she said, okay, well, I'm not going to do that for about 6 months. And she just disciplined herself. Once we did, this is about a 6-month process. Her credit score increased. She was able to go to the bank and was able to secure a loan with the bank to be able to purchase her house. Very low interest rate. All of this because she worked the 50-30-20 rule. So now she has a beautiful home and she still applies it. I follow up with her probably once every couple months and she's doing absolutely well. Now she has about $10,000 in savings, whereas before she had like a couple $100. So it works for you. Again, you have to stay consistent. And so, I mean, other, people that have come and wanted to purchase a car, whatever, that want to start a family, it's the same thing. If you're currently in debt, get yourself out of that, because you want to start. I always recommend, and you can do what you may, but I always recommend that you at least have one major credit card. I have a daughter in college and she is 20 years old now, and I don't know how these credit card people know when you turn 18, but I told her, when they come, throw them in the trash. Like, don't shred it, don't fill it out, not right now, because I want her to be set up ready so when she gets out of college, she hasn't ruined her credit. And so, and again, this isn't taught. A lot of times we don't know this. And so it's important that we educate. Again, like I said, get your children involved. Educate. Let's talk about it. Have family meetings. In your businesses, the same thing. If you got key management that you deal with in your business, you all sit down, have a planning day, and just talk about the future of the business. Sometimes our overhead is extremely too much, so we need to cut that down. So I mean, and I know personally I had to reduce certain things because, listen, do I need it? I don't need it. So, but it was something that I wanted. So sometimes we have to take in consideration and we got to make the adjustment. So I encourage you to take this rule and use it to your benefit. If you have any questions, like I stated before, you can reach out to us and we'll be glad to help you. But all I want to do is just dive in on the 50-30-20 rule and just encourage you to do this. Encourage you to look at your numbers, because again, we don't do that. That's not something that you've been taught to do. Well, let me look at my numbers. What does that mean? What does that mean? Look at my numbers. So a lot of times we don't. So you want to make sure that we do this, okay? So again, recap one more time for you. 50-30-20 rule. Calculate your take-home pay. Then you want to write down every single expense. Go and look, because I'm telling you, I guarantee you, some of you all got subscriptions that you completely forgot about and you're just paying for them and don't even know you're paying for them. Go back, look at every single thing, write every expense down. I mean, down to you getting gas every couple days, everything. What does it look like for you to fill your car up a week? Put it in there, write it down, and then take that and you apply it to the category. 50% of whatever you wrote down, if that's your needs, put it in that category. 20% of whatever that is, put it in that category. And 30%, put it in that put it in the categories that they fit in. And I promise you that if you work this 50-30-20 rule and you stay consistent, you will be the better for your future. If you have questions or comments, it's something you want me to, ask a question, or you want to make a comment, you can reach out to us and text us at 844-436-2788. And in your subject or your topic, make sure you say, let's talk finances, so that we'll know that the question's relating to that. And I'll answer your question on the next segment. Make sure you leave your name, where you're watching from, so I can highlight you when I do read it. And I'm going to answer that question. If you got a comment and you want to leave a comment, do that. If it's something you want me to talk about, maybe I may not be thinking about that at this point, and it's something you want me to talk about, send that in as well. You can also email us at contactus@mdaccounting.org. We also offer accounting services and CFO services. And if you want to get any help from us, we'll be glad to assist you. And you can reach out to our office at 1-877-839-7778. Again, that's 1-877-839-7778. We have a wonderful team that can be able to assist you in any capacity. If you would like to book me personally for any type of speaking engagement, or come and do a professional development for you, or even type of financial plan, or you just want a one-on-one, you can definitely reach out to our office for that as well. It has been a pleasure to speak with you all on today. I look forward to next Thursday. Stay tuned. Same time, same place, right here. Let's Talk Finances with Dr. Nina White.